It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and smack that thumbs up and punch that like button. Let's get into it. Welcome to another My 2 Cents video series I'm bringing back to CBTV that covers all non-crypto related news that you should be aware of for today. For all crypto related news, guys, please view my 2 Satoshi videos. Those are streamed Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. In today's episode, we are taking a look at Bud Light. I'm sure all of you have heard all the hoopla, the epic failure that they created for themselves by really jumping out there on the fringes. Their latest campaign with Dylan Mulvaney, very big failure, and now they're regretting the whole situation. I want to take a look at something out of the New York Times, though, in regards to an update, something shocking that Bud Light has done, and we're going to go over that today. But first, I want to let you guys know that they folded. This is the latest update. Maybe about a day ago, this just broke news that executives at the beer giant are going to focus on sports and music going forward. Round of applause for that. This is something they definitely should have stayed with in the first place. This is their target audience. About 98% of their audience is going to be into sports and music, and predominantly males. The chief executive officer over at Anheuser-Busch said that everything we do should be about and promoting beer. Wow. The beer giant on Thursday said that it would focus its marketing campaigns around sports and music and assign senior executives to oversee that in the wake of the controversy over Bud Light's promo featuring a transgender influencer. Now, to me, this was a real bad move, and this just illustrates we're going too far with trying to cater to a very, very small fringe group in America and around the world. I don't think there's anything wrong with being who you want to be. You want to be gay, you want to be bi, tri, whatever you want, especially in America, it should be your ability to do that. But when you dip into and try to push a narrative that is really not even wanted nor even necessary, in the example of Bud Light, their demographic is a white male, sports-loving individual. And if you wanted to go into and try a different segment or pick up a new target audience, well, the first thing you should have done maybe was to go after women, not to go so extreme as to go after a transgender crowd, which is even a smaller subset of America. Let me know in the comments below, do you think they're going to bounce back from this? There are a lot of independent brewers out there that have already been taking market share away from Budweiser's and the like. Are they just accelerating this move that we were seeing in the first place? Let me know in the comments below how you feel about Bud Light. But the article goes on to talk about in their first main effort, they were recently the sponsor of the NFL Draft and Stagecoach Music Festival that occurred last week in California. The CEO went on to say, beer will always be at the table when a debate is happening, but the beer itself should not be the focus of the debate. Amen to that. Amen to that. I'm just wondering from you guys, how do you feel about Bud Light's pivot back to the drawing board and back to a recipe that was working for them before all of this? Is it going to work? Are they going to be able to regain their sales? Now, the Anheuser-Busch InBev stock did pop off of the last earnings, but you got to remember Anheuser-Busch InBev owns so many brands. Here's the list right here on the screen, and it goes on and on and on. They're not just dependent on Bud Light, but it does paint a bad picture on Anheuser-Busch, and we're seeing the CEO really distance himself from this whole situation that happened over at Bud Light. I'm pretty shocked that we are seeing Budweiser pivot and walk back their transgender campaign, because honestly, I thought they would double down on it and try to really dig their nails deep, but they have backtracked, and I think it's a good reason for a backtrack. It's a loss for the LGBT community, I tell you that for sure, because it just lets people know, at least that community know, listen, we don't want your message and your narrative in every aspect of our lives. It's America, free to be who you want to be. I personally have no problem with any type of LGBT movement, However, when you try to force it on my kids in areas that really have nothing to do with LGBT, it's just gotten to the point where it has gotten out of control. And I'm glad America has stood up, at least the conservative side, because enough is enough. When does it stop? When do you draw the line on promoting things that have really nothing to do with your brand? As I stated earlier, 98%, 99% of your audience at Budweiser is going to be a white male, or at least male. Let's just start there. A male that loves sports and has no thought or even wants to think about an LGBT movement, or have a beer that's in the color of the rainbow, or have a transgender on a can. Even though the can did not come out, it was a prototype, it really has hurt Bud Light itself, but it's also done something else. We're going to talk about some unintended consequences that have occurred from this transgender campaign. Before that, we do have to take a look at, if you didn't know, the person behind this campaign and push to what they call defraternize Bud Light. Alyssa Hannersheed was put on leave as a spokesperson at Anheuser-Busch had this to say: given the circumstances, Alyssa has decided to take a leave of absence, which we support. Daniel has also decided to take a leave of absence. So who is Daniel? Daniel is the second in command over at Budweiser Marketing Department. He was the Group VP Marketing Mainstream at Anheuser-Busch. This is Alyssa and the cringy podcast video that's been running around of her right here talking about how they needed to defraternize the Bud Light brand because it was out of touch. Well, she stepped down, and that's good. Really, the CEO who she reports to should have been fired themselves. The onus is on that person, because there's no way you didn't know she was going to roll out a campaign like this. And there's no way you hired her with the intent to do stuff like this. This was not a hire that you didn't know her intentions. You specifically, or at least she said in her video, that she was put in the role to transform Bud Light from one marked as fratty and out of touch humor to one that embraces inclusivity. Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, that didn't go well. I'm pretty sure she didn't decide to take a leave of absence. They probably put her on leave of absence. So the number one and number two for marketing for Bud Light have been put on leave of absence. They did say the one for Daniel was not voluntary. So it doesn't make me feel like Alyssa's was voluntary either. She was just the first on the chopping block, and they didn't want to come out and say it outright. But seeing that Daniel's was not voluntary, I'm led to believe that Alyssa's wasn't either. And so if you guys didn't know, this tweet from Clay Travis highlights how Bud Light sales have collapsed by 26% according to new weekly data released today. He goes on to say this kind of collapse has, quote unquote, listen to this, never occurred to a beer company in history. Out of outtake, Bud Light sales getting worse by the week as Miller and Coors take off. And so this has unintended consequences here, guys. And what that is who actually moves the cans of beer from Bud Light. It is the distributors. The distributors are the middlemen between the manufacturer and you, the consumer, and they are getting hurt hard because they are using credit to buy these cans from Anheuser-Busch and then looking to sell through the distribution channels those cans to local stores, grocery stores, and restaurants, and so on and so forth. So no one is buying these cans now. They are sitting there holding the bag. And guess what idiotic thing Bud Light decides to do next? New York Post said they reached out to a handful of AB distributors who were spooked, most particularly in the heartland and the South, and even then in their more rural areas. But the idiotic thing they decided to do next is to give free beer to the distributors. Why would you give them something they can't sell? You're giving them free beers, but they can't sell the ones they bought. So what does that do for the wholesalers? Absolutely nothing, in my opinion. Business Insider highlights here that Bud Light has reportedly seen dips in sales since a promotion that featured the transgender. Amid the backlash, the company is giving out free cases of beer. This is not going to help at all, guys. I think what we're seeing here, and I'm just going to sum this up, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on this video if you like my 2 cents on this topic. But what I'm seeing here is the continual divide between the right and the left, the conservative and the more liberal. And it's gotten to the point where the liberals are winning this war because they own all of the major media outlets. I just did a video on Tucker Carlson and his whole fallout with Fox. And that is a right-leaning outlet, the one of the only left in mainstream media. But even they are succumbing to the agendas of the left, in my opinion. You guys let me know in the comments below how you feel about that and Fox News's directions. They've been changing over the last few years, really. I think what we're seeing here is a line being drawn in the sand. Seeing Bud Light kind of step back is a win for the conservatives. So we'll see how it goes from here. I'll keep an eye out on the developments at Bud Light and see if their backtracking helps improve their sales, or was this a blow that was just too damaging to their base? Again, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about this Bud Light situation. There are other companies that have gone down this road as well. This also lines up with the ESG initiative. I think that's something I'll touch on in a future video. But until then, that's my 2 cents. I'm out of here. Holla.